The UAE4 series kicks off the single-seater season in fine style, and it could be one of the most competitive championships of the winter, maybe even the whole year. So for 2026, the UAE4 series kicks off the single-seater season in fine style, and it could be one of the most competitive championships of the winter, maybe even the whole year. So for 2026, let's see who's who. Evans GP have flown into town from Australia once again, and Josh Evans has put together a starlet trio. Dane Alba Larson, Vietnam's Ben Nguyen, and British star Thomas Ingram Hill. Hi-Tech have done their homework, and for 2026 they brought two big aces to the table. Theo Palmer from the United Arab Emirates, and of course, the Red Bull young gun from Sweden, Scott Kinn Lindblom. QMMF have support from Hi-Tech once again, and Team Qatar are hoping their two talents will be very strong on home soil at the end of the season. So good luck to Bader Al Sulaiti and Nasser Al Thani. Trident Motorsport have rocked into town with three drivers hungry for success. Florentin Hattemer of Switzerland, Czechia's Dominik Šimek, and Brazil's Bernardo Bernaldi. Pinnacle Motorsport returned from the Philippines with serious business and four great drivers on the roster. Ryosho Nagasato of Japan, Rowan Campbell-Pilling of Great Britain, Vladimir Verkalantsev of Andorra, and from the United States, Kaylee Countryman. German squad PHM Racing have never been far from the front, and 2026 should be no different, with Kyrgyzstan's Platon Kostin, Austria's Emma Felbermeier, and Italy's Jacopo Martinezzi on board. These days, you can't have a single-seater campaign in the Middle East without Mumbai Falcons. Many championship titles and wins over the years, and they want more in 2026. The champion could emerge from this garage. For China, Kingsley Zheng. For Turkey, Alpak Soy. For Italy, Niccolò Macagnani. And for Ukraine, Alexander Bondarev. Race GP never do things by halves, and in 2026, they've brought 5 epic talents to the squad. For Germany, Elia Weiss. For Hungary, Tamas Gender. For France, Andy Kansani. And a pair of Britons, Kenzo Craigie and Emily Cotti. There could be plenty of wins on the way. Prema Racing have never been far from the front, and the boys and girls in red and white could give us a champion. For Spain, Christian Castoya. For Romania, David Kozma. And for the United States, Peyton Westcott. Now for the teams from the United Arab Emirates, the first of which is XL Motorsport, with a decent reputation and solid experience of putting good talent on the grid. And this year is no exception. Australian Brock Burton, British drivers Jarrett Clark and Joseph Smith, and from Kuwait, Jaber Al-Sabah. Also keep an eye on the XGP satellite driver Lucas Pascanetti, who's from right here in the UAE. Finally, we cannot have a Middle East single-seater campaign without the Yazheat Academy, and they've got 4 strong drivers in the team, the first of which is Adam Al-Azari, an early title favourite. But his countrymen from the UAE will also be challenging: Charbel Abi Gabriel, Eduardo Iacobucci and Zakaria Dole. They'll all be competing on home soil in the UAE4 series. Well, folks, it sounds crazy to say it, but we are getting ready for our final day of the UAE4 Series Category 2026 in Yas Marina. Next week we go to Dubai Autodrome, and in February we'll be at Lusail in Qatar. Now we're standing on the crest of a little bit of history going into race 2. We've had 70 drivers take victory in the UAE-based F4 category over the last decade, from Jonathan Aberdeen all the way to Alexander Bondarev yesterday. However, there's only been 4 women to ever take a victory. Amna and Hamda Al-Kubaisi, the fabulous sisters from here in the UAE, Dorian Pan, now an F1 Academy champion, and Peyton Westcott, who's still on the grid. Emily Cotty will go off pole position in the reverse grid race as the British driver chases to be lucky number 5. But she has 38 drivers right behind her who will want to take it away. Let's find out if she can hang on. Time to get ourselves geared up then for a high pressure cooker opportunity for Emily Cotty, the British racer from Chichester, could become the 5th woman to take a victory in an F4 UAE-based competition. Ever since 2016, when the first F4 UAE Championship took place, moving into the worlds of Formula Trophy UAE, and now to the UAE4 Series, incorporating the Formula 4 Middle East Championship as well. All 10 years of those competitions have given us 70 different race winners, including a handful of Formula 1 drivers over the years. But now we get to talk about the potential for a 5th woman. On pole position, she has a great opportunity, particularly considering that she's racing for the team that came into this weekend, leading the team standings by 7 points. Race GP have a big reputation for success. She's got amazing engineering prowess around her. On the front row of the grid alongside her will be the very talented Qatari Bader Al Sulaiti, who also has the chance to make a bit of history from the front row of the grid. We've had 70 drivers from all 4 corners of the globe, but not a single one of them has ever come from the nation of Qatar. With us ending our season there in February, that would be a momentous opportunity for the Qatari to take a victory. However, on the second row of the grid, there's still drivers who want to make their own piece of history too. Jarrett Clark wants to add his name to the illustrious list of British winners, and Christian Castoya wants to add his name to the illustrious list of Spanish winners, and there's not been many of them. It'll all be very exciting to see what will take place. After yesterday's opening encounter, though, it's very much 3-way traffic for the title fight. Alexander Bondarev, Scott Lindblom and Andy Consani were the men who gave us a real show yesterday. Not the best of starts for Lindblom, as both Bondarev and Consani were able to slice their way past. Lindblom struggling to make it through the first corner in the top 5. Start initially for Nicola Macchignani was then punished by Andy Consani on the way out of the opening hairpin, as the Frenchman managed to grab 2nd position. And Andy Consani went on his way to a fastest lap of the race, his 4th fastest lap in a row. The corkscrew layout very different to that of the Formula 1 configuration. There were some scary moments through the race though, as various drivers ended up causing problems. First of all, we had the collision that took out Bernardo Bonaldi and Brock Burton. That brought us under safety car, and that slowed down the pace of the field. It was going to be high pressure for Alexander Bondarev in the lead, but he dealt with it like a superstar. Soaked up the pressure from Andy Consani, and in the restart continued. Elia Weiss then took a pirouette under the W Hotel, dropping from the midfield to the back of the grid. Once the safety car was back out on the circuit again for another incident, the corkscrew definitely mixing the men from the boys and the girls from the women. It was always going to be fascinating to see if Bondarev could keep it going. A race that finished under safety car for another incident, managed to maintain
his winning run of a win per round. Now he has 2 wins and a 9-point lead in the standings. So the hero of Ukraine, the Bison of Kiev, Alexander Bondarev, now a 2-time winner in UAE4 in 2026. There's a chance now for a new winner to emerge, as on the front 3 rows of the starting grid, we have 6 drivers who have not taken a victory in 2026. There's Rowan Campbell-Pilling. He has taken a win out in a UAE-based F4 category. He won in the Formula Trophy at the end of last year. So great to see him back again for some more thrills and spills. There is Alex Shun taking part in his first weekend in F4 racing. Ryusha Nakazato, the Japanese driver, 18 years of age. And there is Kaylee Countryman, the 16-year-old from Chandler in Arizona. The Trident Motorsport team continuing their reintroduction to the world of F4 racing at this level. They've certainly never been out here in the Middle East before, so it's great to see them add some new firepower to the grid. Florentin Hattemer, the Swiss driver, along with Dominik Šimek, the Czech. And also in the mix as well, we've got the very impressive Bernardo Bernoldi, who sadly had a race cut short. There are the High-Tech and QMMF drivers, all engineered out of the same garage. And then we have Alba Larsen, the Roskilde Rebel. Brilliant work from her yesterday, working her way through the field. The 2 Evans GP talents, keep an eye on them in this one. The 88 Thomas Ingram Hill from Great Britain, and Casper Schormans, the Dutchman. He managed to finish in the top 10 yesterday, but a penalty unfortunately dropped him out of the points. There was also a penalty post-race for Joseph Smith. That is what elevated Emily Cotti from 14th in yesterday's results to 12th and put her on pole position for this reverse grid race. Your first question is going to be, yeah, but can she actually make it to the finish line in the first place? The answer is yes, she can. She was battling valiantly last week for 2nd position, and I have a feeling that had there not been 2 safety car periods, she might have challenged Niccolò Maccagnani on pure pace and stolen the win away from him. She's very ably qualified, an amazing talent, getting better all the time. She's now under the tutelage of Callan Williams, a very talented single-seater racer in his own right. There is Casper Schormans, getting himself ready for the battle out in front. And of course, Emily Cotti, part of the Race GP team, a very strong competitor and a very strong team. So let's see. It's going to be a very strong opportunity for all of the competitors. Jackie Beck is watching along at home. Her favourite drivers are Peyton Westcott, Alexander Bondarev and Emily Cotti. Well, in the next hour, all 3 of your drivers may well have taken a victory out here in the UAE in the space of 6 weeks. There's a very good chance of that if Emily Cotti can hold on to the first position. The drivers head out from the pit lane and they will do their 1 or 2 reconnaissance laps and then make their way to the starting grid. So coming into today's race, we've only got 2 races left in the UAE4 series here at Yas Marina. Next week we go to Dubai, and then in February we finish the season at Lusail in Qatar, another Formula 1 venue incidentally. And so it'll be fascinating to see how the UAE4 series finishes at Yas Marina. As you can see, the conditions are considerably cooler than they were yesterday. It's not blazing blue sky and sunshine. It's dark, it's murky, and it's overcast for January in the UAE. So there is potential that there's going to be a very different style of race. The tyres are not going to be quite as overworked as they were yesterday. So that will definitely make things particularly interesting going into this first race of the day. And you're looking at those clouds thinking, well, there's not going to be any rain at all. There is, however, going to be wind, 23 miles an hour from the south-southeast. It'll feel like about 17 degrees Celsius to the drivers, even though it's about 21. There is a 10% chance of rain, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I've seen the weather conditions change dramatically in the UAE, so you never know. Certainly there's no rain predicted, there's no rain forecast, only a 10% chance of it. But at Yas Marina, it can get very wet very quickly, almost without warning. For those who haven't seen a wet race at Yas Marina before, you need to go back and watch some of our archives because it can get pretty treacherous around here. So we've got Emily Cotti and Beda Al-Sulaiti, two drivers who have never won an F4 race outright on the front row of the grid. Jarrett Clark and Christian Castoya, they can say the same thing. Alpak Soy has won in F4. He won 2 races at the end of Formula Trophy UAE last year to go on to win his title in his first ever car competition, but he hasn't won a race this year. David Kozma has podiums but not wins. Nicolo Macagnani won race 2 last week. Adam Al-Azhari has won F4 races in both Britain and Saudi Arabia. Kenzo Craigie has won rookie races on 2 occasions, yesterday and last week, but has not won a race outright. And then Skotkin Lindblom has, Andy Consani has, Alexander Bondarev has won F4 races outright. So very competitive for this reverse grid race. Thanks to our schedule yesterday, I got back to the hotel relatively early yesterday and had a lot of time sat in front of my computer doing very little except looking at the stats for these competitions. And so I came up with some very interesting stats over the course of last night. As I mentioned in the pre-race build-up, 70 drivers in the history of F4 racing in this country have won races in the last 10 years. The most successful driver of all, you've got to go all the way back to 2016, Jonathan Aberdeen, the South African, won 17 races in 1 year in the days when we used to have 4 races to a weekend and 5 weekends in the season, plus a non-championship trophy round. So Jonathan Aberdeen actually won 17 of 22 staged races in that season, which is quite incredible. The next nearest successful competitors are Charles Weerts, Francesco Pizzi and James Wharton, all of whom won 8 races in their short time in F4. Matteo Nannini won 7. Hamda Al-Kubaisi, Rafael Kamada, Alex Powell and Emanuele Olivieri, as recently as last year, all won 6. Joshua Dirksen, Delano Vantoff, the late great superstar from the Netherlands, Nikita Bedrin and Ugo Ugochukwu have all won 5 times. Nico Gola, Kirill Smal, Enzo Trulli, Tuukka Tarpanen, Rashid Al-Daheri, Keanu Al-Azhari, and that man, Alexander Bondarev, have now won 4 races in these competitions. So, Alexander Bondarev is right up at the sharp end of some of the most successful drivers in the category, but that doesn't mean he won't be joined over the course of the season by a few others. Other names that have managed to take victories over the years in the F4 categories out here include the likes of Charlie Weerts, who's going to be competing out in Japan, Alex Dunn, who you will know from the world of Formula 2, Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who won twice a few years ago, back in 2022. Now he's in Formula 1 racing for Mercedes. Freddie Slater, a former vice champion in both the competitions. Freddie Slater won in F4 UAE back in the day, but also was the vice champion of Formula Regional Middle East last year. He's just come off the back of another successful performance in New Zealand. Incredibly, Freddie Slater only has 2 wins in F4 to his name. His consistency was what won him the title back in the day. He rarely ever finished outside the top 5, and that's what made him the champion in his season-long rivalry with Keanu Al-Azhari. Also amongst the winners list of racers includes Taylor Barnard, Formula E star, who won once. Another one-off victory for Arvid Lindblad, who'll be making his debut in Formula 1 this year with Racing Bulls. Dorian Pain, who was recently crowned the F1 Academy champion and will be racing, well, can be competing, I should say, with Mercedes as their development driver over the course of the season. And of course, we have several other big names through the midst of motorsport who are in the Formula 1 paddock as well. The likes of Pepe Marti, Taz Interpuvazak, and also Louis Sharp. But there is the lady who has the chance to become the 5th woman to win in this nation, Emily Cotti. And a chance for pole position from her in the F4 category. She started 2nd on the grid last week and maintained it, but she had the pace to go better. She'll have this man, Beda Al-Sulaiti, alongside to make it happen for Qatar. No driver in the history of this category from Qatar has ever won. So it's a big opportunity to make some history for him as well. He's chilled, he's cool, he's calm, and he's relaxed. Let's see if Qatar will produce their first ever winner in F4. Next up on the grid for Great Britain, Jarrett Clark for the XL Motorsport team. This is an important opportunity for him. He managed to take the team's first championship points of the season yesterday. Now he could give them not only their first podium, but their first win. Jarrett Clark, very talented man indeed. Let's see what he can produce. Next up, though, the McLaren colours are resplendent. On the second row of the grid, big expectations for Christian Costoya in the Prema. He's not had the best of starts to the season, but Warren Hughes and everybody around him is full of confidence that this man will deliver. This could be his first big chance to do that. There's big pressure on him. Let's see what he can produce. Fifth position on the starting grid, already an F4 title winner, won the Formula Trophy UAE at the tail end of last year. Alp Aksoy, the 15-year-old from Istanbul. Great to see him up in the sharp end again. If he has the same confidence that he showed us at the tail end of last year, then a victory is very much on the cards. Sixth on the grid for the other Prema driver in the Ording, that is David Cosma, a fabulous young competitor. 2 poles in F4 Italy, podium in Formula Trophy UAE last year, and points in the Middle East in F4 last year. The fantastic 16-year-old from Herăstrău, just outside Bucharest, has a chance to put Romania on the top spot for the very first time. Now comes the new Italian stallion, the 15-year-old from Rome, Niccolò Maccagnani. Ferrari Junior tested F4 cars for 3 years behind closed doors, has settled in very well and has already taken his first win of 2026. That was a week ago in his duel against Emily Cotti, who starts on pole. Next up, Adam Al-Azhari. This is a great chance for him to showcase his ability. We already know he's an F4 winner in Britain and in Saudi Arabia. He has yet to add himself to the winners list in F4 in his native land. His brother won on 4 occasions. Can Adam make it 5 for the family? Next up on the grid, number 29, Kenzo Craigie, the 15-year-old from Epsom, the latest Mercedes Junior, karting World Junior Champion, Champions of the Future Senior Champion last year as well. Mercedes really believe in this boy, and considering the results he's put in already, that is absolutely understandable. Currently 3rd in the points in his first ever car campaign. Next up, Scott Kinlin-Blom, pole position yesterday for race 1. Difficult start, dropped to 5th, fought his way back up to 3rd, but the Swede is an absolute lion. He's got himself a great opportunity to work his way back into contention, and the Farlan Flyer will definitely be one to watch coming back through the field. With him starting P10, Andy Consani is going to have it tough from P11 on the grid. But so far, the French Mercedes Junior, second in the point standings, just 9 points back from Alexander Bondarev, has a record this season nobody else has. We've had 4 races, and Andy Consani has 4 fastest laps. Now do you understand why Mercedes signed him? Ever consistent, ever fast. But of course, the hero of Kiev, the bison of Ukraine, Alexander Bondarev already has 2 wins to his name last year, 2 wins to his name this year, and he's climbing up the table as one of the most successful F4 drivers in the UAE. All of his wins come at Yas Marina. He has a chance again to make it number 5, both today, this morning, and today, this afternoon. Next up, the Italian Jacopo Martinese from Torresano in Lecce in Puglia. A Kart Republic Motorsport factory driver, getting better all the time. 13th on the starting grid for him, a great chance to put himself into the championship points. From Roskilde in Zealand, the superstar Alba Larsen joining the Ferrari Academy for 2026 for her 2nd campaign in the F1 Academy. But that's not all she's about. Part of the Evans GP squad, Josh Evans really believes this woman has the potential for some decent results over the course of this season, and her speed is definitely matching that potential. Another fast lady up at the sharp end of the field. Isn't it amazing? You wait years for a competitive lady in the top half of F4, and now we've got at least 3. There's Emma Felbermeyer getting herself ready for some action. And don't forget, Peyton Westcott is going to try and work her way through the field, as is Kaylee Countryman. A plethora of female talent in F4 in the beginning of 2026. So there is Florentin Hattimer, the Swiss talent, a Victory Lane representative in karting, a Genza driver in F4 last year, and already leading the charge for Trident in 2026 in F4. This is a great opportunity for him to continue his brilliant story. Next up for Evans GP, it is a new face and certainly a fierce contender. Kasper Schurmans, 10th position on the road yesterday. Sadly, a post-race penalty kept him from scoring that point, but all signs point to confidence. If he can keep this up through the course of the weekend, and certainly in race 3 later, we could see points on the board. Next up, from Dubai, it's Theo Palmer. He was a great star in karting. He's turning into a great star in F4, in British, in Saudi Arabia, and here in the UAE. His home race is next week. He wants to get set up for that in the best manner possible. Platon Kostin, top 6 driver in F4 SMP last year, which included a pole position, a fastest lap, and 2 podiums, coached by the brilliant US-based driver Ariel Elkin. Let's hope that Platon Kostin can charge his way back to the top 10. And a great opportunity for this man too, Dominik Schimek, a brilliant superstar in direct drive karting for Forza, in gearbox karting for CPB Sport. Definitely a great contender for the future, and Czechia can be very proud of what this man has done already. Next up, the speed is there. The luck hasn't been so far for Joe Smith, the 15-year-old from Cambridgeshire. 6 times a racer in F4 GB last year. Was a podium finisher in Ginetta Junior. Had a penalty at the end of last year that robbed him of a decent finish in the rankings. There's Peyton Westcott, already a winner in F4 categories out here in the UAE. She took a victory in the reverse grid race in Dubai in Formula Trophy UAE last year. So she is one of the 4 women to have triumphed. Her compatriot from Great Britain, Emily Cotty, may be about to add herself to that list. Her teammate is making good progress as well, the Hungarian Tomasz Genda. Tamas Genda looking forward to a great start to this one, making his way forward and making steady progress as we get called off the grid. So now you know the main players up at the sharp end of the field, but in a field of 39, we just don't have the time to work our way through everybody in the grid. So we will do that shortly when the drivers are on their formation lap. What you need to know, though, is that we have a race GP in pole position. Emily Cotty, mixed parentage, British and Kiwi. So all those watching from down under will definitely be cheering on Emily Cotty. It's going to be a fascinating challenge for her. Beda Al-Sulaiti alongside her, with Jarrett Clark and Christian Castoya snapping at her heels. She's got 38 drivers behind her to make it work. Those clouds are getting seriously dark on the far side of the circuit, and we are told that the rain could be making an appearance. We go around on the formation lap. We were told it was 10% chance of rain. Maybe, just maybe, there could be a surprise. That sky is getting very, very dark overhead indeed. Certainly towards the Formula One pit straight, that part of the circuit is getting very wet indeed, and I don't even want to contemplate what a wet circuit on the corkscrew is going to be like for these F4 drivers. None of them have any experience of wet weather conditions on this circuit, particularly on the corkscrew layout. You can see for yourself that it's starting to get a little bit greasy out there. For those who are shocked and absolutely baffled by the fact that it could be raining in the UAE, it's not unheard of. It's not a massive shock anymore. And around here, it could be very heavy indeed. So here's your starting grid in full for race 2, UAE4 round 2. Emily Cotty in pole, Beda Al-Sulaiti in second place. Then Jarrett Clark and Christian Castoya on the second row. Next up, Alpak Soy and David Cosma, Mumbai Falcons and Prema. Niccolo Macchignani versus Adam Alazari, the home favourite. Kenzo Craigie rounding out the top 10 with Scotkin Lindblom. Then the 2 big stars of the title fight, Andy Consani and Alexander Bondarev. Jacopo Martinez alongside Alba Larsen. Then Emma Felbermeyer beside the Swiss Florentin Hattimer. Then it's Kasper Schurmans fighting back with Theo Palmer on the 9th row. Rounding out the top 20, Platon Kostin and Dominik Schimek. Then we've got Joseph Smith alongside the American Peyton Westcott. Then we've got Tamas Genda alongside another American star, Cash Felber. Jabba Al-Sabah is alongside the Italian-based Dubai man, Edoardo Iacobucci. Ryusha Nakasato alongside Kaylee Countryman from Arizona. Nasser Al-Thani is alongside Rowan Campbell-Pilling. And then we've got Kingsley Zheng and Sun Anji, the new Chinese talent. Shabal Abi Gabriel is alongside the German Elia Weiss. Then we have Thomas Ingram Hill and Lucas Pasquinetti trying to make progress. Then we have Zachariah Dole, Bernardo Bernaldi and the Australian Brock Burton at the back of the field. Imagine what this race could be like if we get rain falling in the middle of this race. The drivers are all on slick tyres. There's no other option because the circuit isn't wet and it's not likely to get wet enough for wet tyres. But even a little bit of rain here could be catastrophic. This is suddenly going to be one of the toughest races of the season. And into the pits comes Tamas Gender. The Hungarian is driving down pit lane in the Race GP car. So I'm not entirely sure what the reason for that is. But now we've got ourselves a very tough race ahead. 28 minutes plus 1 lap. 25 points on the board. Emily Cotti, pole position, hoping to become the 5th woman ever to win an F4 race in this part of the world. Beda Al-Sulaiti alongside her, hoping to become Qatar's 1st ever race winner at this level. With Clark, Kostoya, Aksoy, Kozma, Makinyani, Al-Azari, Craigie, Lindblom, Konsani and Bondarev snapping at their heels. The lights come on for the 2nd time this weekend in UAE4. Let's race again at Yas Marina. Perfect start from Emily Cotti. That's exactly what she needs. Beda Al-Sulaiti getting a slump, and that's going to be Clark pulling alongside Kostoya, trying to get up the inside of at least one of them, but absolute perfect start for Emily Cotti. Round the outside comes Jarrett Clark, trying to go wheel to wheel with Beda Al-Sulaiti. This is going to need bravery. They bang wheels, and Jarrett Clark sticks his neck in. Can he get up the inside line and in a second? He does. Jarrett Clark is there, but Beda Al-Sulaiti's not bailed out yet. Into the W Hotel, they drift wide, and they nearly come together. They do come together, and that's going to be a cut through from Nicolo Macagnani up into 3rd position. This is heaven for Emily Cotti. She's got a brilliant lead already, and it's absolute skittles for everybody further back as the field is tiptoeing their way through on this opening lap. But Emily Cotti has daylight between her and Beda Al-Sulaiti, now back into 2nd place. Kostoya definitely having some pressure here from Aksoy. Aksoy on the inside line, and he's through. Al-Azari trying to keep it round the outside of Kostoya. And we've got Lindblom drifting wide, Cosma drifting wide. Everyone is on tiptoes as they go up the crest towards the corkscrew for the first time. Tricky stuff already here. And off goes the Race GP. That's Konsani. That's Annie Konsani who's gone wide. And is that Emily Cotti? She's dropped back. She's down to 3rd. She's made a mistake in the corkscrew. And Beda Al-Sulaiti leads. We've got rain. We've got rain on the far side of the circuit. That's why she lost control. We have got rain on slicks on the far side. Beda Al-Sulaiti leads. Look at it. It's a drag race to the braking zone. And Adam Al-Azari is going to edge his bets and get through 2 of them. What an amazingly crazy start to this race, as through comes Beda Al-Sulaiti in the lead of this race. It's absolute skittles down the straight. Sulaiti, Macagnani, Cotti, Clark, Al-Azari, Cosma, Kostoya, Craigie, Martinez. Goodness me. Try and find a way through on the line. And everybody is just tiptoeing their way past these apexes, hoping that they've got enough space to run side by side. Here comes Macagnani going after Beda Al-Sulaiti once again, but they're still going to have a tricky surface to play with as Jarrett Clark puts Emily Cotti under pressure. But now Nicolo Macagnani is putting Beda Al-Sulaiti under intense heat here as they go on to the far side of the circuit. Race start under investigation. Yellow flag at 12. That's at the W Hotel right-hander. So someone's gone off. Goodness me, what a race this is so far, and we haven't even got 5 minutes into it. Cotti and Clark battling for 3rd. Al-Azari going wheel to wheel with David Cosma. Cosma right round the outside. What a move from the Romanian. David Cosma outside braking zone, turn 1. He had the confidence and he goes for it, and that's who got involved then at the W Hotel. That's Dominic Šimek. Well, that's disastrous, and there's a wing missing for the 88, so that is big damage for Thomas Ingram Hill. Race start is under investigation, and we're under safety car. Wow. Take a breath. My goodness, what a start to this race. That's what a little bit of raindrops can do on the corkscrew. Absolute pandemonium. So we've got drivers towards the front who are now at the back. We've got drivers from the back who are now towards the front. Chaos. Now we're on a safety car, so we can at least bring it to some kind of order. Let's look at how things currently lie, as we've got bits of car festooned around Dominic Šimek. So he's out on the spot at the W Hotel, I'm afraid. So we've got Bader Al-Sulaiti leading. Lindblom's in the pit lane. Scotkin Lindblom coming down pit lane. He's got damage. So, right, what are we going to see a replay of? This is what happened. Too many cars, too small a space. We're going to see what happened. 3 into 1, doesn't go. Oh, nasty, nasty stuff. That's Gender into the side of Šimek and Ingram Hill. Nothing anybody could have done about that. 3 cars into the same bit of racetrack. Mayhem, absolute mayhem. So Bader Al-Sulaiti leads, Macagnani second, Cotti third, Clark, Cosma, Alazari, Castoya, Aksoy, Martinez and Kenzo Craigie. There is Thomas Gender in the pits after that big damage. Scotkin Lindblom has just left the pits. So has Alba Larsen, I think. Oh no, Alba Larsen's still in pit lane. So that is Thomas Ingram Hill. No, sorry, that's Alba Larsen. She's got a new front nose. You can tell it's a new front nose because it's in Evans GP colours, not in her traditional Whoop colours. So Alba Larsen does leave the pits. So does Scotkin Lindblom. But for Alba Larsen, oh no, Scotkin Lindblom's still in pit lane. My apologies. So the Red Bull Junior has not left the pit lane yet. Zachariah Dole has. So he's for the Yazheat Racing team. Dole's been in. Larsen's been in. They've both gone back out again. Lindblom is still sat in pit lane with a damaged car. So I'm not sure what happened to Scotkin Lindblom, but the high-tech driver is there in pit lane. There he is. So Scotkin Lindblom, I think they're out of the race. Yes, Scotkin Lindblom is out of this race. And we've got umbrellas in the pit lane. We've got umbrellas in the pit lane. The rain is coming down here. I cannot believe it. We had a 10% chance of rain. Now we've got a 100% chance of rain. Red flag. The race has been stopped. So now we're going to have a wet race in UAE4. Absolutely unbelievable. So now we have got ourselves an unbelievable situation. Let's try and unpick this now. Let's try and see what's happened from the restart replays. There's the initial start. Emily Cotti out of the blocks like a jackrabbit. Nothing wrong there at all. Little bit of a sluggish one for Bader Al-Sulaiti. And then we've got Jarrett Clark running a very strong start in. Castoya tucks in behind, tries to get the move on the inside of both of them. Gets balked. Macagnani round the outside, throwing his weight into the battle. A brilliant start for the Italian. But Emily Cotti really made a fantastic start. The problem was she hit the corkscrew part of the layout on slick tyres with a wet surface before anybody else. You can't really blame her. But what a crazy race this has turned out to be. This is almost shades of the Nürburgring in Formula 1 2007 with quite a little bit less rain. Mind you, we've still got a fair bit of it. The rain is absolutely pelting down here at Yas Marina. That doesn't happen every day, and when it does, boy do you know about it. None of these drivers really have any experience at all of driving the Yas Marina circuit in the rain. And there is the spinning Andy Consani. That's why he's down in 28th now, although make that 27th when you take Lindblom out of the equation. There's Emily Cotti getting it slightly wrong down the corkscrew. Fair play. It was never going to be easy, but she rejoined in 3rd place. Good effort to recover. Look at the chaos. This is at full speed. Ready? Ouch. Absolute disaster for Dominic Šimek. He's out on the spot. The cars make their way back to the pits, and they're struggling even to get the wheels turning in pit lane in wet conditions on slick tyres. Yes, folks, it really is raining at Yas Marina. Well, Very tricky situation then for the competitors, because none of them have any experience at all on wet tyres on this circuit. Look at it. Look at the rain. When we came into this race, there was a 10% chance of rain on the forecast. Throw the forecast out the window. So we're under red flag conditions because we've got heavy rain around the circuit, and it is heavy rain, even though these pictures may not tell you there's a lot of rain. I'm looking at the monitors at various points on the circuit. There's a lot of rain on the far side of the circuit. These are 15, 16 and 17-year-olds, and they're on slick tyres. It would be stupidity to expect them to keep that pace up on slicks in these conditions. Got to remember that many of these drivers are in their first ever car racing campaign. For goodness sake, do the sensible thing and give them wet tyres. PLP50 wants to know, should we get popcorn for when the race restarts? You absolutely should, because nobody knows what to expect from the grip levels. It's been sunny, dry and perfect for the last 12 days here at Yas Marina when these drivers have been testing and running. These drivers will have eyes wide on stalks now because none of them know what to expect from these conditions. Even on wet tyres, this place is going to be an ice rink. So the race will be resumed at 10:05 behind the safety car. All cars will change to wet tyres. So very tricky indeed. Look at it. You do not see wet tyres needed at Yas Marina very often. Thank goodness Pirelli decided to bring them. So now we've got a fair few drivers trying to figure out what the situation is. This is just more pressure to add to Bader Al Sulaiti, the race leader for Qatar. Because nobody from Qatar has ever won a race at this level. This is the first opportunity, really, for Bader Al Sulaiti. And now he's got all the pressure in the world. The mechanics can't quite believe this either. Many of them will never have witnessed rain in the United Arab Emirates before. So we've got tyres on standby, but we're in this interesting phase of the race. You've got to remember that rain is rare in the UAE, and while parts of the circuit are really bad, other parts of the circuit are still not quite wet enough yet for wet tyres. So what do you do? Do you put on slicks or do you put on wets? This is a really, really tricky situation now for the mechanics. And Alfred Hahn points out they're not going to want to change the tyres until the very last moment. They want to see what the rain does. If it's a brief shower, you leave the slick tyres on. If it's going to get heavier, you change to wet tyres at the very last moment. Because if you get that tyre choice wrong, you're an absolute ruiner for your race weekend chances. But if you get it right, you're a genius. So some teams are going straight to wets. I can see Trident are going on to wet tyres for Bernardo Bernoldi. High-Tech are hedging their bets a little bit for Nasser Al-Thani. They're trying to leave the slick tyres on for as long as possible. Evans GP have gone wets for Alba Larsen. That makes a lot of sense, actually, for Alba. Having already dropped to the back of the field, having already got a nose cone problem, they may as well roll the dice. They may as well take a gamble. Well, if it gets wetter and she's the only one on wet tyres, she could be an absolute hero. Race GP is staying on slicks for the moment for Tamas Genda and Andy Consani. This is disastrous for Consani. He really doesn't need this. Look at Kenzo Craigie. There's the Race GP team. Not giving away what they're doing on strategy. XL are staying on slicks. So XL are definitely staying on slick tyres at the moment. Rather sadly, Thomas Ingram Hill is out of the car. He's not going any further. But they're walking down the pit lane now to try and make out what everybody is doing. Well, it's definitely mixed strategies up and down the pit lane. There is still rain falling here. It's not particularly heavy. You can see wet tyres going on to Florentin Hattimer. The turn 12 incident involving Šimek is under investigation. The other two drivers involved in that, of course, were Alba Larsen and Cash Felber. So all three of those drivers now under investigation. And Andy Consani is staying on slicks. They're not going to put him on wet tyres. So we've got 20 minutes exactly left of this race when it resumes behind the safety car in 3 minutes. Wet tyres for Larson, slick tyres for XL Motorsport. For most of the high-tech team, if not all of them, Andy Consani in front of me is staying on slicks. So there's only a handful of drivers really that are deciding that wet tyres are the answer, and those are the gamblers really. Those who are already out of position, you may as well try it. You know, if you're out of position, if you're down the order, you're not going to make up masses of time on a circuit this slippery unless you do something drastic. Drastic is going on to wet tyres. So you may as well roll the dice. Let's see what happens. Fascinating. You've got to choose whether you go on slick or whether you go on wet. You can't mix the tyre sets. You have to decide one or the other. I'm just trying to look down the line and see if anybody else has decided to gamble. Can't see anybody opting for the wet tyre. Just looking out of my commentary box window, Mumbai Falcons are staying on slicks. Yas Heat appear to be staying on slicks. Van Amersfoort appear to be staying. Sorry, not Van Amersfoort. Pinnacle. Such similar liveries. Pinnacle staying on slicks. There's High-Tech's Theo Palmer. He's staying on slicks. Wet tyres for Emily Cotti? No, slicks. I thought that was wet tyres for Emily Cotti, but it is indeed slick tyres. No, I'm wrong. It's wets for Elia Weiss. Elia Weiss now, he's got to gamble as well. So Elia Weiss is down the order, so he may as well gamble. Now there's Skotkin Lindblom getting ready to go out again. So they've had the time under the red flag to repair his car, but of course he's got to drop to the back of the field because he came in, he was actually a lap down when the red flag came out. So Skotkin Lindblom's got to rejoin at the back of the field, but when the red flag came out, he was still in pit lane, so I think he'll still be on the same lap. Well, we'll try and unravel the mysteries, but I apologise in advance if I get quite a lot of this wrong, because there's quite a lot to unravel here, and it's going to be edge of your seat stuff, both in the commentary box and on the race circuit itself. Race 2 of UAE4 2026 in Yas Marina. Main headline, we have rain. But the question is, how much rain? We've had a fairly hefty shower, which has certainly caused some problems. So Emily Cotti down to third position, and you may think, oh no, the chance is gone. No, it hasn't. If anything, the pressure is now taken off her. Because we get to start again. We're under safety car conditions. She's third place. We know she has speed. All the pressure is on the two drivers in front of her. Bader Al-Sulaiti from Qatar, sorry. And then Niccolo Maccagnani from Italy. We go back to safety car conditions so the race can restart. Wow, fascinating scenario as out we go again. Now the circuit is going to have damp patches, but not wet patches. Because already it looks to me as though the rain may have abated. Well, there's still a little bit of rain falling actually. The only way I can tell that is to look out of my commentary box window and figure out, is there rain actually falling in front of my eyes? The answer is, yes there is. So we've still got rain, but the majority of the grid has gone slicks. Why? Very simply, the only way to make wet tyres work is to have enough water on the circuit that they actually go through the treads. You don't immediately go to wet tyres when it starts raining. It can only be wet tyres if there's enough water on the circuit to actually bite into the tread of the tyre. So this is going to be just about the toughest conditions a junior driver can ever face. It's not dry, it's not wet, it's somewhere in between. And that's a spin already. We're under safety car. And we've got a spinner, that's Shabi Abi Gabriel, the Lebanese, who races under a UAE license, of course, so that puts him to the back of the grid. What a shame for Shabi Abi Gabriel. And considering that these guys are 15, 16, 17 years of age, don't mock. It is so hard to have these cars under control in these slippery conditions. It's like driving around with ice cubes bolted to the wheels, blindfolded. You've got no chance. You've just got to rely on instinct. So back into race conditions we will go when we are ready to, but my goodness me, this is going to be unpredictable. Whoever wins this race will be an absolute genius. So these are just about the toughest racing conditions a racing driver can ever face, and these 15, 16 and 17-year-olds have got to learn about it the hard way. I'm trying to remember the last time it rained at Yas Marina on the corkscrew layout. I don't think it's happened in recent times. I've seen rain on the Yas Marina circuit on the Grand Prix layout in these competitions. I think it was 2 years ago, but certainly not on the corkscrew layout. And the corkscrew plus rain, well, that is just astonishing. Ben Ewing watching along on the stream. I wonder if Jake remembers F4 Southeast Asia round 1 when the final race had us all driving on slicks in a Malaysian monsoon. Remember it? I'm almost finished drying out from it. That was a catastrophic moment for everybody. And the rain just suddenly all fell from one cloud over Sepang. So yes, if you're just tuning in, we're under safety car after a red flag for race 2 UAE4. Why? Because we have rain at Yas Marina. Yes, I am not joking. Rain at Yas Marina. It is still falling a little, but it came down very heavily. And so, with all of the chaos and all of these 15, 16, 17-year-olds on slick tyres, safety's got to come first. We go to red flags. They reset. Now we're behind the safety car, and you can see for yourself on the way to turn 1, just off the line, there's actually quite a lot of standing water on the way to the Formula 1 turn 9. Look, you can see patches of, and another spinner behind the safety car. That's one of the Race GP cars. Is that Emily Cotti? Oh my goodness. So we'll double check. It is. It's Emily Cotti from 3rd position. Oh, all of that hope and expectation for her after the brilliance of last week. But we're on a wet surface on slick tyres, and they're trying to get heat into the tyres and brakes, which in these circumstances is almost impossible. And now Emily Cotti has spun it behind the safety car and recovered. You have got to feel for her. This is so difficult to get right. But she's not out of the race. She's still in contention. Now she's got to figure out what happens next, because she spun and lost positions, but can she keep her position where she is now, or does she have to fall further back down the line? So a very difficult situation for the team. They've got to be in communication with the race director. What do we do now? They've just got to take instruction. So Bader Al-Sulaiti now leads Maccagnani, Clark, Cosma, Al-Azari, Castoya, Aksoy and Martinez. The last points positions are Craigie and Shawmans. Another great drive from the Dutchman Casper Shawmans so far. Well, I think Cotti was able to actually recover in front of Kenzo Craigie, her teammate. So that will be roughly where she stays. But that is devastatingly bad luck for her. A chance to win, and it's been made a lot tougher. So the competitors now try to figure out when we're going to restart. Again, there are still some very tricky parts of the circuit. The safety team have to assess the situation. We're still under safety car on a wet circuit with many of the drivers choosing to go slicks. So we have to try and figure out when we go racing. Look, you've got drivers who are actually trying to get off the wet line to generate heat into the tyres. Look, you've got people literally driving right to the far side because there's actually a drier part of the circuit and a wetter part of the circuit, and they are being told where to place the car to suit the car best. So it's It's going to be difficult to predict what will happen next. Emily Cottee has rejoined in 9th place in front of Kenzo Craigie, so there's still points on offer, but that's not what she wanted. She wanted a win. And that's another spinner. That is the 83. So that is a very big problem for the XL driver. That is Jabba Al-Sabah of Kuwait. 3 drivers now spinning under safety car on a wet track, on slick tyres, on a circuit that barely ever gets rain. You can criticise these drivers all you want, but you will be wrong too. So very difficult for all of the contenders at this moment in time. Several moments behind the safety car. Here's the moment for Jabba Al-Sabah. Just carries a little bit too much speed. But the back end slips around. It just washes out from underneath him, the rear end of the car. So easily done. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. How difficult must these conditions be for us to lose 3 drivers under safety car? 1 is bad enough. They've all recovered, they've all rejoined, but it really is difficult. So you're asking, when will the safety car come back into the pits? Well, the easy answer is when drivers stop spinning behind it. 11.5 minutes left of this particular race. There's a very solid chance we could finish on the safety car, of course. The conditions are not suitable enough. Just looking out of my commentary box window, the rain is definitely less than it was. The difficulty here is that this is a circuit that doesn't get rain every day. It's not a common place for rain. It does happen, but very, very rarely. The circuit isn't quite wet enough for wet tyres, but it's certainly not dry enough for slicks either. And we're asking teenagers to deal with this. And there is a car with a missing front wing. So that's a 4th casualty. That is Zakaria Dole. So that's 4 casualties behind the safety car. Well, that just tells you how tricky it is. Everybody's trying their best to get the most out of these cars and warm up the tyres and brakes, but they're just not increasing in temperature. The advantage we've got this weekend is that UAE4 and Formula Regional Middle East Trophy are the only series on the bill. So we've got time if we need to delay. Wow, very difficult at the moment. Siegfried Hermes pointing out that we've got 18 rookies in this 39-car grid. And to be fair, even the experienced drivers in this field will not have experience on the corkscrew layout in these conditions. Zakaria Dole comes through into the pit lane to repair the front wing of his car. 4 casualties behind safety car. So now we've just got to see what happens. And if it stays like this, then Bader Al-Sulaiti is going to become the first Qatari winner to go racing and take a victory from his nation. He'll be the 71st driver to take a victory in F4 category racing in the UAE. So there is Zakaria Dole. Get back out there. You don't know what's going to happen. Look, you can see for yourself in the pit lane, there is still rain falling. He's gone back out on slick tyres and they've already got water on them. Look, you can see how wet it is in the pit lane. So we've still just got to wait and see. And there's more rain falling in pit lane. It's got heavier again. So the rain has come back and got heavier in pit lane. It is pretty monstrous now down in pit lane in front of me. So just when we thought we were going to go racing again, the rain gets heavier just outside my commentary box window. Oh dear, oh dear. What do you do if you are the race director, Eduardo Freitas? What do you do if you're the marshals and officials? I can see the marshals out on the circuit, and they are doubtful that this is going to get going. Oh, it's just got heavier again. My goodness, I can't remember the last time I saw this much rain at Yas Marina. Well, I've got a feeling we could end up with another red here. Most of the field are on slicks. Look at it. Now tell me that it's safe to go racing on slicks with these 15, 16 and 17-year-olds. What a crazy scenario to be playing out in front of us. Surely this race can't restart yet. Ay, ay, ay. Look at it. I cannot remember ever seeing that much rain at Yas Marina, ever. And so we're still behind the safety car. Well, for all those who are thinking, oh, surely it's fine for racing. No, it ain't, mate. Wet tyres will definitely be needed. It's suddenly got significantly wetter. And this is what the officials and the marshals have been monitoring. They've been looking at the rain cloud pattern. Thank goodness we didn't go green on that last lap, because they could have called it. And we would have had absolute mayhem again. So now there'll be consultations and communications. They're going to be looking at the weather radar. Into the pits comes one of the XLs for wet tyres. Do you know what? I'm doing it. I'm going for wets. If we do get restarted, I've got a chance to win this, says Jabba Al-Sabah. And I don't blame him. And he's not the only one. Zakaria Dole is back in pit lane. Give me some wet tyres while you're at it. I can't even keep it in a straight line. You don't really get to see this in F4 very often. Oh my goodness, look at the pit lane. That looks like Sepang, not Yas Marina. And into the pits has come Andy Consani. So Andy Consani comes in for wet tyres. That could be the master stroke move from the Frenchman. This is how I get this win. Oh my word, look at it. On go the wet tyres at Yas Heat for Zakaria Dole. Well, you don't need to rush, guys. We're under safety car. You'll certainly have more grip to get to the back of the queue than anybody else has. I have never seen this at Yas Marina in F4. So now we're on the Formula One straight, and you can see how wet it is there now as well. This isn't just an isolated problem. It's a circuit-wide problem. And that really is, for me, the deciding factor. But I'm a commentator. I don't make these decisions. I don't have all the facts at my fingertips. I've only got what I can see out of my commentary box window and on the monitor that you can see. But as you can see, in the pit lane, it's torrential. A torrential downpour at Yas Marina. Who'd have thought it? Out of the pit lane goes Zakaria Dole. But I'm not sure we're going to get any racing conditions for these guys to actually utilise the wet tyres. We've only got 5 minutes left of the race. Surely, in good conscience, they can't send them out. Well, there you go. You see, at the corkscrew, it's relatively dry. So this is the difficulty we've got now. Parts of the circuit are torrential, parts of the circuit are dry. So wets work for half of the circuit, slicks work for the other half of the circuit. This reminds me so much of the German Grand Prix 2000 when drivers had to decide, do we go slicks, do we go wets? It was eventually Rubens Barrichello in the Ferrari that won that day on slicks. Safety car still out. Well, what's the decision? Is there a decision? Check out the rainfall at the last chicane. Red flag, there we go. Red flag is called. They'll bring them back into the pits, and then I guess everybody will go to wet tyres, ready for a restart. Did you ever think when you woke up this morning you were going to get to see Yas Marina with that much rain? I certainly didn't. I saw the forecast this morning and went, well, it's a little bit gloomy, but 10% chance of rain. Ah, that'll be fine. Not on your Nelly. So down the pit lane with the mechanics significantly wetter than they were. And so for the second time here at Yas Marina, we go to red flags. But the question is now, are we actually, oh, hang on, we're not parking in the pit lane. We're going back to our garages. Does that mean that the race will not resume? We haven't had any messages about it. But it looks to me as though the race may not carry on. Okay. Well, I need to figure out what that means then. Normally, we would have cars waiting at the end of the pit lane. Look, a couple of drivers think we're going to the end of the pit lane. Others think we're parking in our garages. Well, this is confusion. The very simple question comes on the stream, is that the end? I don't know. I've never seen this. This is like the end of a qualifying session. We got half the drivers going to the end of the pit lane, half the drivers queuing up outside their garages, but there's still 4.5 minutes left of the race. And I'm not getting any messages to tell me that the race will not resume. Normally, they would tell me race will not resume, and that's why you'd get this scene. A 5-second time penalty for a false start for the 17. So that's a penalty for a separate incident for Zakaria Dole. He's already had every single thing that can happen to anybody in this race. There's Andy Consani on wet tyres. Well, what was the point of that? He comes straight back to the garage, and we've got 4 cars at the end of the pit lane expecting normal race restart procedure to come. I have never seen confusion like this before. Right, well, now we've got to figure out what happens next. We've got several cars that are assuming it's just normal restart procedure to come. Everybody else has gone back to their garages. I do not know what is happening. Jake Sanson reporting from the commentary box at Yas Marina for the 6th year in a row of the Middle East categories, and I can hand on my heart tell you, I haven't got a clue what's going on. That doesn't happen often. So we've got 4 F4 cars at the end of the pit lane. The other 35 are outside their garages. I've got personnel running up and down the pit lane in front of my commentary box window. Checkered flag. Checkered flag. So the race is being declared. And that means that Bader Al Sulaiti will be the first winner of the competition, first winner from Qatar. Right, we've got the following drivers under investigation. 1, 4, 12, 14, 19, 42, 50, 67 and 99. That is Christian Castoya, Emma Felbermeyer. The 12, so that's Adam Al-Azari, Alba Larson, Nicolo Maccagnani, Emily Cotti, sadly, because, of course, she spun under safety car. Florentin Hattimer. The 67, that is Dominic Šimek. And the 99 of David Kozma. So anything that's happened in this race is up in the air. Wow, that is the craziest race in the history of the Middle East F4 categories in 10 years. Goodness knows what the result is going to be. I mean, I just don't know. I just don't know. Because we've got 9 drivers under investigation. We ran almost 10 minutes behind the safety car. That's what happens when it rains at Yas Marina. Nobody knows what's going on. Well, it looks to me then that we're going to have to wait for some updates. But at the moment, that could be the race-winning car. And certainly High-Tech think it's the race-winning car. Bader Al Sulaiti may well have become the 71st driver ever to win an F4 race in the Middle East in an F4 car. Absolutely extraordinary. Never thought I'd see anything like that. Who won? Asks the one who loves. Well, you'll have to stick around because we'll let you know as soon as humanly possible. But that is genuinely the maddest race in an F4 category I've ever seen. Well, stick around, folks, because we're going to have a podium ceremony very soon. But there's a genuine chance we've got the first ever Qatari winner. We could well have a British driver on the podium in Jarrett Clark. Well, I don't know is the answer. I don't know. We'll wait confirmation. At the moment, Bader Al-Sulaiti is the provisional winner. Nicolo Macchignani second, from Jarrett Clark, David Cosma and Adam Al-Azari. Then Christian Castoya, Alpac Soy, Jacopo Martinese, Emily Cotti and Kenzo Craigie, the point scorers. No points for Alexander Bondarev behind Shawmans, Florentin Hattemer, Cash Felber or Emma Felbermeyer, Roman Campbell-Pilling, Joe Smith, Platon Costin, Theo Palmer or Elia Weiss. Then Ryoshi Nakazato, Peyton Westcott, Kingsley Jung and Eduardo Iacobucci, Shunan Ji, Nasa Altani, Bernardo Benoldi, Lucas Pascanetti, poor Andy Consani and Alba Larson, all the way down the order. Scotkin Lindblom, Brock Burton, Sharbalabi Gabriel, Kaylee Countryman, Jabba Al-Sabah, Zachariah Dole, and then, of course, retirements from Thomas Ingram Hill and Dominic Shimmick. Look, we've got the podium. We've got the podium procedure of Parc Ferme there with no cars ready. One of the strangest ends to a race I've ever seen. I've got to head over to the podium, so stick around. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are now ready for the podium ceremony for the 2026 UAE4 Series, Round 2, Yas Marina, Race 2. And what a result we have. Very different compared to what we've seen for the past 4 races. In third position for the United Kingdom, Jarrett Clark. A fabulous opening race of the day for Jarrett and, of course, for the whole team at XL Motorsport. Points on the board and a podium in the bank. In second position for Italy, Niccolò Maccagnani. Another solid result for the Ferrari Junior and a very strong 18 points to add to his tally. But your race winner for the first time in history for Qatar, Bader Al-Sulaiti. History is made as the first ever Qatari winner in the UAE4 categories gets to the top of the standings. Now it's my honor to invite the motorsport manager for Pirelli Tyre Middle East, Africa, India region, Jonathan Wells, to present the trophies. In third position for the United Kingdom and XL Motorsport, Jarrett Clark. In second place for Italy and Mumbai Falcons Racing, Niccolò Maccagnani. And to our winner for Qatar and QMMF by Hitech, Bader Al-Sulaiti. We also get the rookie trophy over to Jarrett Clark. He does the double with a podium and a rookie trophy. Your pictures are happening across the pit wall, ladies and gentlemen. What a historic occasion here in UAE4 at Yas Marina. Jarrett Clark, Niccolò Maccagnani, and the first ever Qatari F4 race winner in Bader Al-Sulaiti. This is going to be quite a celebration for our 3 drivers. Jonathan exits stage right because for the first time in history, a Qatari will lead the champagne spoils. Not quite champagne, but it will certainly feel like it to the drivers who get busy with a visit. Bader Al-Sulaiti, the history maker for the Qatari Motorsport and Motorcycle Federation, led by Hitech. Congratulations to Jarrett Clark, Niccolò Maccagnani, and Bader Al-Sulaiti. We'll be back for more in race 3 this afternoon. Congratulations to our drivers. We'll continue on here at Yas Marina with even more from the meeting place of champions. Formula Regional Middle East Trophy will be on circuit next.